Blog Talk Radio. Hello, Radiant Light Beings. This is Michele Meiche, and you're on Awakenings. You are awake. That's why you're tuned in. We all know this. Anyway, let me just run by you. Awakenings is airing every Wednesday, 12 to 1 Pacific on Blog Talk Radio, and also now Fridays, 12 to 1 also on Blog Talk Radio. And then replays every Saturday and Sunday on Cosmic Dimensions. So I just want to welcome everyone already in the chat room. We've already been chatting. Actually, somebody here, Terry Hinkle, I believe, Hinkle from another program that actually also had our guest on at one point. So maybe he'll be giving us some feedback. So I just want to ask everyone, are you awake? Are you waking up and living awake and connecting to the truth of who you are? Because that's what this show is all about, and that's definitely what our next guest is about. In fact, I wrote a book on the Reconnecting, because that's what it's about, reconnecting to the truth of who you are and living that. And today we have an amazing, amazing being with us, Dr. Eric Pearl. Many of you already know of him because I've been hearing about it in the chat room. He's doing some amazing things right now. He's got an amazing book out, The Reconnection, Healing Yourself, Healing Others, and also has some amazing workshops that will be coming up that I hope we get to dive into a little bit. And I also know personally he loves chocolate like I do. Hi, Eric. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah. I was relaying to somebody the other day the synchronicity of when I first interviewed you. I think we did the interview later in the day. You've been traveling around speaking as you do. And I had my tea, and I just finished that and a little bit of chocolate. I called you for the pre-interview, and you were chewing something. I said, "What are you eating?" You said, "Oh, just a little bit of chocolate."
Well, let's not talk about chocolate now. It sounds pretty good, and it would be breakfast for me.
That's right.
Which still sounds pretty good now that I think about it.
So how are you doing right now in your travels? You've been...
I'm doing great. I'm finally here in the U.S. again for a little bit, which is nice. I've been on the road since February. I am in the same suitcases that only mildly change. You know, I send certain things home when I'm through with certain climates, and I have other things sent out to me, or I use it as an excuse to go shopping somewhere. Actually, I'm in Portland right now.
Okay.
And there's this wonderful store called Mario's, and I can't wait to get out and get to it for a little bit today before I leave, because Portland has no state tax. They've got great clothes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, I love Oregon. Are you the green part? Is it very green where you are?
It's very wet where I am.
Okay.
Yes, actually it is green. If I look out my window, I have them put me on the 8th floor of an 8-story hotel, because on the 7th floor, all you could see were the buildings around you, and the 8th floor managed to rise above, so I actually can look out of my window instead of feeling like I'm inside of some walls. And I see green. I definitely see green.
Okay, that's good. I see a computer screen, and I do see the outdoors. Oh, well, welcome back. This is great. We've got some great people already tuning in to listen to you, and maybe even give some feedback and ask some questions. So everyone, you know, that in the chat room, and those of you that are online, definitely call in or shoot me, you know, your question in the chat room, and I'll keep track of it. So, well, that's just for those. Some people already know who you are. We've been getting a little bit of feedback on that in the chat room, but for those that don't, let's talk a little
background story. So
yeah, a little bit, and how the Reconnection started for you, how you came upon this, or it came upon you.
Yeah, I think it's more like it came upon me. I was sort of minding my own business, shall we say, as a chiropractor, and there I was. And one day I had a few strange things happen, and let's just say I was awakened in the middle of the night by a bright light that came piercing through my eyes. I didn't know what it was. I opened my eyes, and it just seemed to be my lamp, which wasn't, anything that struck me as majorly metaphysical or spiritual, except it had not selected any other strange evening to turn itself on and wake me up, and I felt people in my house. Now, I don't know how to explain what it's like to wake up to the feeling of people in your home that didn't seem to be there when you went to sleep. So let's just say I got up bravely with a knife, a can of pepper spray, and my Doberman pinscher, and I went hunting. I couldn't find anyone, so I went back to sleep. And that Monday when I went into my office, seven of my patients independently began to tell me that they felt someone standing in the room with us as we were working, just the way that I felt someone in my house. A couple people said that someone walked in, some people stood there, some people walked around. 2 people told me that they swore that someone was flying around the ceiling. And I'm thinking, yeah, you got to be crazy, But on the other moment, patients are telling me they could feel my hands before I touch them. And I'm saying, yeah, sure, you can. Close your eyes. So they'd close their eyes, and I'd hold my hands near certain places. And they tell me right shoulder, left ankle, so it sort of became a game because, well, it was my office and I could have whatever games I wanted. And as I played with moving my hands around different places, even though I was yards away from people and watching them tell me what I was aimed towards and that they could just feel it, my palms blistered a couple of times, and my palm actually bled once, not like a stigmata, but, more like you stuck your palm with a tiny little needle, that little bit of blood that comes out doesn't quite go anywhere, but there it is. And the next thing we know, people are reporting healings. They're getting up out of wheelchairs, and visions are returning, and hearing's coming back, and they're showing me laboratory results of where their cancer tumors had vanished, and kids with epilepsy aren't having seizures anymore, and not everyone, but a lot of them, enough of them so that we knew that something distinctly real and something distinctly different was going on there. And so patients started calling and saying, what did you do? And, their child with cerebral palsy is able to walk and speak normally again. And what did you do? And I said, nothing, and don't tell anybody, which went over about as big as whoever it was, Nixon, whatever her name was, saying no to drugs.
Yeah.
What was her name?
I'm not recalling what. Oh, not Bush. It wasn't the Bush. The no to drugs.
No, it was one of the Nixon.
Yeah.
I don't remember one of them going, Nancy Reagan, I think, just saying no to drugs, and everyone started coming in from everywhere going, I'll have what she had, and the next thing I know, people are calling and saying, teach this. I'm going, teach it. You got to be crazy. How can you teach it? All I'm doing is like waving my hands in the air, looking like a fool. So wave your hands in the air and see what happens. But the funny thing is that I would get calls from my patients, and they'd say that when they got home, they would walk into their house, and their lamp or television or computer or stereo would start to turn itself on and off and on and off, and they'd hold their hands near someone in their family, and all of a sudden the grandfather could walk again, and the aunt or uncle regained their speech after the stroke. And we found that once you interact with this, you're able to access it. But the funny thing is we do have to interact with it. And this is one of the many things, in looking at this over time, there's really everything, I mean, we know this, but it becomes more clear. Everything comes from love, prosperity, and abundance, as Terry Cole Whitaker, used to say, or fear, lack, and limitation. And it truly does. And fear, lack, and limitation, the limitation aspect of accessing healing comes from ego and judgment. Yep. We want to be entitled to things simply by being and not have to go through what the experience of it is. And we do actually have to go through it. There's the New Age ego that says, well, you know what? Everything, it's all God, it's all love, it's all universe, and it's all the same. And yes, and no. Mm-hmm. It is. It's all God, it's all love, it's all universe. But it's not all the same. If it were all the same, what in the world are we here, and I do mean in the world, to experience. The fact is, there's more. The researchers feel that this...
Well, another thing, Eric, you bring up a good point about the asking, but also we are in a feeling world here. You know, one of my teachers used to say you have to feel your way through your feeling experience. So you have to open up to the experience of it.
Absolutely.
By the way,
somebody's
asking in the chat room just really quickly, are you going to be in Seattle?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Seattle, I think in a couple of days.
Okay.
Let me actually look while we're here chatting. What is today? Today's the 20th.
The 20th.
Yeah, I am in Seattle. Let me see. I think tomorrow night I do a lecture in Seattle, and also I think I do one on Friday night. Now, my calendar is not giving me the clarity of exactly where it is.
I'll go on the website and then... See, Teresa, ask and you shall receive. We were just talking about this. Ask. You have to ask.
Oh, isn't that funny? Well, here, let me look and see if I can see on my schedule thing right here. It looks like there's a venue somewhere that I'm going to. Now, I figured that much out, but this is not majorly clear yet. After the speaking engagement, we could arrange. They're telling me, oh, here it is, Seattle Unity Church.
Okay, there we go.
Seattle Unity Church, and that's 200 8th Avenue, and it looks like I will be there at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9. I'll be presenting from 7 to 9, and that's on Thursday.
Someone wants to...
And do I do that again on Friday?
I'm going to send the ring. Let's just put the...
No, and on Friday there in Seattle, I'm at the East-West Bookshop, which is 6500 Roosevelt Way.
Okay.
And, of course, you can go to eastwestbookshop.com for Friday. I can give you a phone number for them if you want it.
What's the number?
It's 206-523-3726. 206-523-3726 or 523-1523. That's the East-West Bookshop from 7:30 to 9 on this Friday, 2 days from now, but in Seattle. But on Thursday, it's the Seattle Unity Church, 200 8th Avenue. And I don't see a phone number for that. Oh, yes, I do. The phone number for that is 206-953-3573.
Cool.
Okay.
Good. Got, and I put your website down. That's what I love about you.
Yeah, the website, thereconnection.com. Yeah, because you could ask and we can talk.
Yeah. Cool. Great, Teresa. Then that's all. I can see it right here. We've got August, where you were at the beginning of August, in Australia, California, which you're going to be, I know, September around the 9th or 10th in San Diego. So anybody listening from San Diego, August 9th to the 10th, Eric will be in San Diego.
Well, Sunday the 24th, I think I'm in Seattle. Not Seattle, I'm sorry. Sunday the 24th, I think I'm in Sacramento.
Sacramento.
I'm in Sacramento. Now, what is going on in Sacramento, I would only know. My calendar isn't very clear, so I have to go into the schedule thing and see what...
That's right. Okay, the 25th. Let's see, where am I looking? The 30th, you're in Germany. But then you're back here in September. I know you're back in California in September.
I am in... Well, here's what's happening in California, which is really good. I found Sacramento. No, Sacramento is on Monday the 25th, and I'm at the Learning Exchange there.
Okay.
To find them, you definitely have to call them. You have to go to either www.learningexchange. The word the is not in there. It's just learningexchange.com, and their phone number is 916-929-9200.
Okay, so got that. And the rest
that's a good 3-hour presentation at that learning exchange. That'll be good. We're doing, we've got other places too. We're going to be in Mountain View, I think, on Tuesday night. It should all be on the schedule on the Reconnection.com.
Yeah, I put that down because you're in Hawaii and then you're back in Arizona. And
I'm not in Hawaii.
Why do I see that? It says Hawaii. You're not in Hawaii?
It says Hawaii. Oh, I think someone's giving a semi-private seminar there, one of our instructors.
Oh, okay.
Believe me, if I were in Hawaii, I'd know because I have none of those prints packed away in my bag, and I would have stuck them in.
But tell us when, just
but
and
the
then
best,
we
the
get
best,
chatting, but also because we have a lot of people that are also listening, L.A. area.
Well, actually, there's a great thing coming up in L.A. September. Let me see it in my mind. It is September 12th or something. Let me look. September 12th through 14th. Yeah, that's it. We're teaching the basic seminar September 12th through 14th in Los Angeles, and then we have a large conference that will be starting on that Wednesday night, I think, or on that Thursday the 18th through the 21st or the 22nd. Now, what's really exciting about this specific conference in the seminar in September is that we're going to have some major international researchers present there doing studies. So for those of you who choose that you want to come learn how to do reconnective healing in September in Los Angeles, if you let us know, you'll have the opportunity to participate in research that's been going on, because the researchers have become very excited about just what's making reconnective healing so uniquely, distinctly different from any form of energy healing we've ever known of that's ever been on the planet up until now. So
let's talk about that a little bit, Eric, how we're moving more from just energy into light, which is what the reconnective, I even hate to put it in a box of technique, but you're tapping.
You can't, because it isn't.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about reconnective healing is that one of the things that makes it so different than anything else is that it's not a technique. The gift of reconnective healing allows you to transcend technique, to be able to access beyond energy, was what the researchers are saying. This is the first way, the only way on the planet that we know of right now to get beyond energy healing.
Yeah.
In order to access beyond energy into a spectrum that they say is comprised of energy, light, and information. And it's not as if energy, light, and information are distinctly separate things, any more than blue, green, red, and yellow are separate. But the fact is that blue, green, red, and yellow is a spectrum of color, and that's more than just blue. Mm-hmm. And when we access or reconnect with the comprehensive spectrum, which is beyond energy, but energy, light, and information, it includes energy, just like the rainbow includes blue. Mm-hmm. But it brings us to much more, just a more comprehensive spectrum with which we're able to do and accomplish much more. What happens is the healings are much more comprehensive, yet we do much less, and we observe much more. See, here's the concept. The researchers say that this is different. They said this level of healing is here for the very first time. And the way to understand it, according to them, is that we're existing in a four-dimensional world. We were raised being told it was three-dimensional, but science in the year 2000 has recognized and acknowledged what Einstein had been telling us since the 1950s, that we're four-dimensional. We are height, width, depth, and time. So if you allow yourself to imagine the way this is illustrated in quantum physics, they illustrate it by drawing a bubble. So picture this bubble.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a giant, if you ever saw like a giant glass vat on the stove of bubbling water, we're just like one little bubble in this huge universe. So our little bubble, our four-dimensional bubble, is comprised of height, width, depth, and time, and our capacity of our bubble has been filled with energy, just as we'd always been taught. Everything here was energy.
Right.
The funny thing is that time is moving faster. But time isn't moving faster the way we think of faster, like beginning, middle, end. Time went by so quickly I couldn't get anything accomplished. Time is actually, we're getting more accomplished. Time is moving faster in all directions at once. So what time is really doing is expanding. which means our bubble, our four-dimensional bubble in this huge multidimensional playground is expanding. And we are now, for the first time, able to access more than just the capacity of energy that we have had. We've gone beyond energy into what's always been in the universe but has not been here on the planet before, a spectrum of energy, light, and information. And so it turns the rules upside down and inside out. It functions entirely differently. And the results, the responses when, children are having instantaneous healings from cerebral palsy and they're walking again, or they have epilepsy and suddenly they don't have, seizures any longer. The changes that go on have been just fascinating the researchers, including researchers who never, ever, ever would have looked at the concept of energy healing or anything like it before because it was just too subtle. It was too minimal in its responses. So anyhow, for instance, Dr. William Tiller, who's known for the Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy and other things, he's got about 4 or 5 books out and published over, I think, about 350 papers, did some research, came out finally because he just had to find out what was going on with this, came out to, I think it was Sedona or Santa Fe or somewhere where we were giving a seminar, and decided to do some measurements and see what was going on. And he set up some equipment to measure what he called excess free thermodynamic energy. And you can listen to his and some other researchers' podcasts for free on the Reconnection.com to hear how they speak about this. But he came out, he set up his measurements in the room, and then he left after the weekend. And they called us and said, there must be something wrong. That the room must have been set up in some kind of a power generator because the measurements couldn't possibly have happened. So they went back to the place, but there was no power generator. What they said was the level of free excess thermodynamic energy that was produced with the people learning how to access this new reconnective spectrum of healing had raised the temperature of the room to the equivalent of 300 degrees centigrade. He said if this were just energy healing, whether it was, Reiki, Jirage, and Qin Qigong, or any of the new techniques of the day, quantum this, or, whatever the latest books are, by virtue of being a technique, that limits what we're able to access to energy only. But this spectrum of energy, light, and information creates such a dramatic, instantaneous change that it would have required the room temperature to have gone up by 300 degrees centigrade. And then he said, but I can't publish it. And I said, why?
You're like,
he said everyone would think I'm crazy. It's just not possible by any standards that we know of. So about 4 months later, he came to a seminar we gave in Los Angeles, reproduced it with even greater results. So, and that study then had some directional input from Lynn McTaggart, who wrote The Field.
Yeah, had her on the show.
And Dr. Gary Schwartz was out there from the University of Arizona. So this year, they're so excited with the results that now we have a group of researchers pooling their study design and information and equipment together just to see what in the world it is that is making people who interact with reconnective healing such dramatically effective healers instantaneously, like within 1 weekend, not years of study, 1 weekend, that it doesn't matter if people came in being grandmasters and masters in Reiki, Jirage, Qin Qigong, Mahjong, Beijing, EFG, 1, 2, 3, XYZ, quantum that, breathe it in that, touch point A and point B and collapse the wavelength here, bring a color thing. It doesn't matter. They jump to such a level that science has just never seen that. So now here's the people we have coming in looking and doing research in this. You ready? In September, Masaru Emoto from Japan, who does the water crystals. Konstantin Korotkov is coming all the way from Russia, who's very well known now in the world for, he has created equipment to measure energy fields and working with healing that has taken us so far beyond what we've known as Kirlian. It's like the difference between air travel today and when they first attached, 3 wings to a bicycle and drove it off a cliff. Gary Schwartz from the University of Arizona will be there. Also, so will Melinda Connor. I just wrote a chapter for Dr. Erwin Laszlo, and we're talking about having him come out to do some research, although it's not going to be this September. And it's just amazing what's going on. So
part of what I hear, Eric, is also because you're getting out of the ego. When we are doing techniques, though they're great, I think we talked about this before, you and I. It's a stepping stone or step off. You know, it gets you there, but if you're hung up on the technique, then you're literally shutting down that connection to source that goes beyond form.
Techniques are like training wheels. Techniques are like training wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is, you know, and I had a technique teacher say to me, well, don't call them training wheels. That's very minimizing. I said, is it? Because I'll tell you, if you're a parent with a very small child who wants to get on a very big bicycle, trust me, training wheels are invaluable. The point is, you know, you put the training wheels on, the child tips a little to the left, tips a little to the right, begins to discover their balance. They master riding the bicycle with training wheels, and at that point, we as the adult know that it's time to remove the training wheels, because the true gift of the training wheel experience comes only when you transcend the training wheels, right? When you take them off.
Right.
The gift of a technique, the true gift of the technique, lies in its transcendence. But obviously, if you're talking to the child who had a bad experience without training wheels or no experience, they're going to say, no, you know, I like the training wheels. But they're also going to say, you know, but I'm still tipping back and forth. I'd like to ride better. So in their own mind, they'll say, well, let me get a second set of training wheels. I'll get the 24-karat gold set, or the set that makes little beeping sounds, or the set that shoots red light beams forward so I can see when I'm tipping left and right. And one day you look out the window, and here's this child riding down the street on their bicycle with 24 sets of training wheels. They've mastered a bicycle with training wheels. They may even have taught their friends. You know, their friends come along and pay them $250 for a weekend, and they give them a little certificate and say, you are now a master training wheel bicycle person. And there they all are driving down the street with their different training wheels, mastering the bicycle with training wheels, but none of them have mastered the bicycle, and none of them ever will until the training wheels come off. And this is what we're doing with our energy healing techniques. They are allowing us to comfortably dip our toes into the water. The problem is, most of the people that we're learning from these techniques are teachers, but not masters. Teachers say, come back and learn more. Come back and learn more. My guides will give me a new insight in 5 years. You can write out another check. My husband will be thrilled to deposit, and you can come back and learn more. And the master says, don't come back. Mastery at this point will lie in the silence of your own mind. You will discover your artistry and your mastery there. You need to move forward. We need the space. The fact is, there will always be new students, as long as there is truth to be taught. You see, I believe it was Gary Zukov who was one of the people who explains that teachers teach, but masters don't teach. We allow ourselves to learn when we're in the presence of a master, and from there we move forward with that. We have to learn to step through the technique. But left alone, what do we say to ourselves? Well, you know, I've been practicing this technique, and I'm getting better, and I'm getting better, but I'm not there yet, so we look for the second technique and the third and the fourth and the fifth, and, you know, one day there we are riding down the street with our bicycle with 24 sets of techniques. We've mastered our techniques, but we haven't mastered healing until we step through them.
And in a way, when you are able to use a technique to then release it and just show up and allow what needs to come through you or move through you, that's the mastery. You know, I know but people don't. I know when I teach, I tell people, you know what, it's coming through me. I'm learning also. I mean, for me, the level of teaching is that you're always receiving. It's not you, because the you that people talk about is the ego. You know, which is fine. The ego's fine, but I think when we say that it's I'm doing something instead of just opening to something, or like you said earlier, Eric, just, you know, asking and then being open, then you're moving beyond the limited mind or the local mind. You're moving into that abstract, or you're connecting to source. some people are frightened of that.
Well, they are, and you phrased it as you showing up. Mm-hmm. Now, the funny thing is part of the reason people have been afraid of that has been the history of we haven't been able to show up at this level before. We've gotten the concept of showing up, and we think that getting the concept is it, but there actually needs to be a how can I explain this? There actually has to be a level of ability to show up. There's something interesting about the Reconnective Healing frequencies, and see, let me try to find a way to explain it. I think ego jumps up sometimes by virtue of the fact that we've named this something. I never really did want to name it anything. I always said this level of healing has no name because it's just us reconnecting with who we are. And there's a broader way to access it now than there had been before, but everyone started giving it names, and the names always had my name somewhere in it. It was Pearl Frequency Technique and Eric Pearl Technique and New High Frequency Eric Pearl Technique, and so finally we gave it a name because it's us reconnecting to who we are. But once we reconnect to this fullness, we don't need to do anything, a technique or add something to anything at all. But the point is, we do have to interact with this. And the New Age ego, a lot of people want to say, well, no, it's just here, and I just have the right to have it, and all I have to do is sit in a corner and ohm. And well, actually, no, that's not true. That would be like going to the beach and taking a 24th floor hotel room and sitting in your room and deciding that, the ocean has to come to you. You're going to sit there and ohm it in. And I'll tell you can ohm all day, and it's not coming. Or if it is, run. It's a tsunami. The fact is, you have to pick up your spiritual little butt, march it out of the hotel room, down the elevator, across the lobby, across the beach, and into the water, and then, and only then, you can get as wet with ocean water as anyone else. And that's what we have to do. The challenge and the gift come together like the front and back of the coin. The challenge is we have to use your words, show up.
Yeah. The
gift is that we can then receive this access. We can't sit in the hotel room and ohm it in. The ocean isn't coming to us. It's part of the lesson for us to learn to stand up and say, we're ready.
Now, do you help people do this with what you're, and I don't want to backtrack too much, but somebody is interested in seeing you in, I guess, Seattle. What you're doing in Seattle, is that going to be?
Well, let me try to explain it. I'll show you what happens as best as I can.
Okay.
Usually during any good-sized presentation, meaning more than an hour and a half, and I think Seattle's going to be 3 hours, generally what happens is that I'll give an introduction of the work. I'll talk about the history of it. We'll talk about more of the science, the research behind it, the theory, and then we'll also bring people up to give demonstrations, live demonstrations of the healings, because in seeing this, we gain a reality of what it is. It's, in our seeing lies our knowingness, and in our knowingness lies our ability to access the mastery to it. After that, we also give everyone an opportunity, if we can, to feel it in your hands, which means what you're doing during that evening is you're steeping in it like tea bags. So the transformation is beginning from within. Now, if you choose to actually learn this to become a practitioner, and I'll tell you, just from the book itself, just if you buy the Reconnection and you read the book itself, the fact is it's in a formula. I hate formulas, but that's what the publisher wanted. The first portion of the book is the history. The second part is, theory and research. The third part is a how-to, and it does allow you to be able to access this to a given degree on a personal level, friends, family. It does not allow you to go out and say that you are a Reconnective Healing practitioner. There's actually a little bit of an education involved in that, which I'll talk about now. For those of you who want to truly learn the work and become a practitioner, it's not a huge investment of time, but it is a 2-day investment of time. It's a weekend. You don't need more than that, but you do need that. And what happens is the weekend is usually set up where there's a stage in the center of the room. There are chairs on one side, massage tables on the other. And I'll tell you right now, do not come if you think we're all going to sit around, hold hands, om, and sing Kumbaya, my Lord, because it's not going to happen. What goes on is I demonstrate a level of healing from the stage, then we all go to tables, massage tables in groups of 2 or 4, and we work with each of you and show you how to find things. And trust me, when you come around, if I come to you and I say, now, just hold your hands a little bit like this, and you see the person who's lying there on the table with their eyes closed, their foot starts to shake a certain way. I'll say, now slowly glide your hand over here. Feel this sensation right there. And as you tune in and feel it, then their foot or their fingers begin to move a different way. So then move back to where you were, and you move it back, and their body goes back to one type of movement. Move it back over here, it moves another way, move it somewhere else, it moves another way. You get to see pretty darn quickly and clearly that what you are doing is affecting a change in that person on the table. And it becomes instantly clear as you see and feel and correlate it, the mastery of this work. It's like if I put a box of tissue on a table in front of you and showed you how to push it west and it goes west, and push it east and it goes east, and north, north, and south, south. Now the point is, it's not going to take too long until you've got the mastery of this. I'm oversimplifying it. But the point is, you could study the physics of tissue box pushing for the next 40 years, and you'll not get it any better. And that's how we learn to access healing. The moment people get involved in step, we begin to lose what the healing is about, and we move into technique, and we move into symptom-related, and we move into diagnosis, and we move out of allowing ourselves to access through the instantaneous beauty of the childlike mind. We've been, I hate to use this word, but I'm going to because it comes to mind right now, suckered into the concept that we need to go to healing schools. You know, you're going to 3 years for three-week periods a year and spend $30,000.
Well, it's based on a patriarchal model, right? It's based on they wanted to.
Well, some of these are based on a matriarchal model, if you don't mind being more accurate.
No,
you know, some of the ones I'm thinking of in specific. But either which way you want to go on it.
They tried to make themselves legit, like trying to be like a regular or conventional college. So it
they went to appear legitimate by following the model that doesn't work in this situation. And it doesn't mean that the model in other situations is wrong. The fact is, let's take medicine. If you're a medical doctor, most likely before you treat your patient, you need to diagnose them. If you don't diagnose them, you're probably, what's the word you're looking for? Well, anyway, you have to diagnose them. You're negligent if you don't diagnose them in most situations. If you do healing at this level, you're negligent if you do look for what the problem is. Because the more we think we know about the person, through whatever ego-based concepts we approach this, the more likely we are to limit the fullness of the healing according to the limitations of what our conscious, educated minds are able to perceive and understand. So we come in following these semi-diagnostic medical models that feed the ego, the I, me, it's all about me healing approaches. And that's what we're taught in schools, and you know why we're can allow for enlightenment. Instead, they feel they need to teach, and they turn us all into historians. You study what that healer thought, and you study what that healer thought, and you learn what the other healer was thinking too, and if you're truly, truly, truly unfortunate, you get to learn what you're supposed to be thinking also. Then they tell you to write theses. Well, you don't become a healer from theses. That's theses with a T-H.
I love it.
So they teach us these I, me, it's all about me healing techniques. Now, we go into denial about it because they teach us to say the opposite of what we do. They teach us to say, it's not I, it's not me, I'm without ego. And then we charge in, and everything we do belies the opposite. We step in, we say, so I stepped in and I saw that the auras were out of balance. Because I learned how to see the auras now, and so I recognized to rearrange the blue and the purple, and I saw an area of red that didn't belong, and I removed all of them, and I felt the energy flowing freely, and then I felt an area where the energy was congested or limited, so I removed that area and let everything flow freely again. Aren't I wonderful? Because I have no ego. Okay? So we listen to that garbage going on all the time, and we do it, and it sounds good on the surface unless we actually open our eyes and ears and listen and see. Because here's what's really going on. Let's look at it on the physical level. Let's say you've got a football player.
Before you go into that, I just want to see if we have someone is on listening.
Oh, sure.
You're on the line with Awakenings 314. Did you want to ask a question?
Was this 314 maybe?
Yes, 314.
I certainly do. I tell you what, it is so good to hear Eric's voice. Eric, you probably don't remember me here in St. Louis, but with Shadow Worlds, when you would come through here, we would have some really good times in the station talking with you.
I remember Shadow World.
Yeah, you and I think it was Shane came through here a couple times. We had some fun. But what is so strange? What is so strange is I was just thinking about reconnecting with you again, so I was going through, because Michele, he was, if I was to make a list of the top 10 people that were on that show, Eric's one of them, and so I was looking for his number the other day. I was asked to go to this place called a Gathering Place last night. There was a lady there doing the Reconnective Healing, and Eric, I got to have one last night.
Oh, great.
How cool.
I love the synchronicity of this. You wanted to reconnect. And here he is talking about the Reconnective Healing. So now you've reconnected. So tell us a little bit about your experience.
Oh, it was, well, first of all, you were talking about earlier on about the experience of things. Well, I'm so lucky to have had him in the studio when he would come to St. Louis because he just blew people away. Eric, when you'd sit there and just all of a sudden you'd put your hand out there. I remember Mary Sir, which was my co-host and everything, she just was, it was almost too hot for her. And so last night, just showing up there at this place to talk about my new book and everything, and this lady says, you need a Reconnective Healing. Come on in here. And it's like, wait a minute, I know about this. And she did. She did a beautiful job. So the people you're teaching are really out there doing it. It's so great to hear your voice and all the wonderful ideas.
Thank you. Yeah, we've trained over over 40,000 people around the world. The book, The Reconnection, is now going into its 30th language, and a lot of the seminars, they look like UN conferences because everyone's wearing headsets for simultaneous translation into 4 different languages, and it's very exciting. We're teaching people how to rise up in the level of becoming teaching assistants, then becoming private mentors of the work, to then being able to teach semi-private seminars and begin to teach this work, because if I do what I'm supposed to do when I transcend the body, this work will be everywhere and being taught, and soon simply just being owned as a natural right from the interaction with it. So I'm so glad that you're telling me about other people who are doing this work. It's like it's continuously shining a light of consciousness of a new level of healing.
She was like, when I said, oh, Eric, I know him. We've talked a few times. She was like, oh, my gosh, you're kidding. It was so nice. We had a great conversation about you. And then today I'm sitting here going to the Vortex Network, a new internet network that's here on the Blog Talk Radio, and checking on stuff. And I'm looking, okay, let's see what's going on today. And oh, my gosh, in 10 minutes, here it is with Eric Pearl, and just too many synchronicities. So thank you so much for letting me come on and say hi.
Oh, my pleasure. It's good to hear from you.
Good to connect with you.
Well, I'll try to reconnect to him. I'll get I have your phone number in here, and so I'll try to track you down as you're moving through the world. Thank you for letting me come on and say hi, Michele.
Yeah, great to connect with you. Love it. This is that synchronistic flow we're all living now.
I love it.
Talk to you later.
Good night.
So where I was going, that was nice. So where I was going with this is, we do all those I, me things, and we remove this and we change that according to what we think that we know and we perceive. So let's look at the physical body. Let's say, for instance, a football player injures his knee during the game. So what happens is the knee swells up, the temperature changes because, it gets hot. There's altered or limited function to the knee joint. There's redness or a change in color. And there's pain. The fact is there's pain. Now, what is the pain? Is the pain something to get rid of right away, or is the pain more? Well, the pain is the knee picking up the body's telephone system, calling up to the brain, hollering, help, help, help. There's damage down here. So the brain says, okay, I got you. We'll stay on the phone. While we're doing that, I'm going to send some blood down. We're going to wash out some of the debris. There'll be temperature change and discoloration. And I'm also going to send some healing nutrients down and some excess fluids to limit the movement of the knee so you don't overwork the joint. And we're going to keep the process going on, and we're going to stay on the phone until the old stuff's gone, the new cells have healed, and then we'll say goodbye and we'll hang up. And that is the divine intelligence, the perfect intelligence of the universe. Call it God, call it love, call it universe. I like the God word, but whatever word you want to use, that's your call. Meanwhile, the question then comes about, is the body any less intelligent, or is the intelligence of the universe any less intelligent off of the body than it is on or in the body? And of course not. So what happens is when we come along and we say, I'm going to change the colors of the aura because I know that they're not proper, and I know there's an area of red where it should be purple, and I'll remove that. And then, right, and then they say, nah, and I brought my hands in, and I felt that the energy was flowing freely everywhere except for this area. It seemed congested, so I removed the congestion, and I let everything flow freely again. And it sounds good on the surface, but the point is, what is that person really saying? What they're really saying is, gee, God, you've done a really swell job with a lot of the universe up until now, but I'm seeing some spots here that you clearly missed. Let me take over for you. Thanks a lot. Aren't I great? I learned a lot of things in my healing class, God. You might want to come to one.
That's right.
And we say, I have no ego, and then our actions are just the opposite. It's like people who we get so fear-based from our teachings that we're so focused on calling in all these entities and sources to protect ourselves all the time that all we do is focus on things we're supposed to be afraid of, and we go where our attention is. And even the people who consider themselves evolved, yes, I'm so evolved. I only call God in for protection. And so
I always tell those people, protection from what? It's all one.
Well,
we're all in this resonance.
Right. Absolutely. But here's another point. I'll say to that person, is God everywhere? And they'll say, well, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'll say, well, where are you calling God in from? Seers?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, if we're not that, in the physical plane, if you and I were sitting down having breakfast together, and I pick up a mobile phone to call you and invite you in, you'd think I was nuts.
That's right.
So, is the left side of our mouth speaking to the right side of our mouth? Is what we say we believe on Sunday the same thing as our actions demonstrate that we believe on Tuesday?
And you know what, thanks so much for saying that, too, about the colors with the chakras, because it's so, to me, newbie, new age. A lot of times when I work with people, they're like, oh, that's supposed to be orange or that's supposed to be yellow. And I'm like, oh, maybe not. It's what you see, what your filters, it's energy and light. It's light, whatever is that spectrum for that individual, that configuration, that's what makes them unique. It's not.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not.
And more, but more than that, maybe the area is yellow, which is usually pink. Mm-hmm. In other words, your knee is normally flesh tone, but when there's an injury there, it'll turn red from the blood supply, which will later turn black or blue, which will later come back to a normal color. Is that not intelligent, or is that the divine intelligence of the universe working through the innate intelligence of the body, doing an intelligent process? And for us to step in and change that is our ego of wanting to do. It's the fast ego food of healing, which we are taught, instead of learning that there is a higher level to attain if we allow ourselves to evolve to the level of becoming the observer and the observed. And when we allow ourselves to observe, it's like being invited into the home of the healing process. It's like It's like God or the universe inviting us in to see something, to the home of this process. And last I checked, when you're invited into someone's home, it's not appropriate to rearrange their furniture. It is appropriate to learn to see and recognize the beauty in it that's occurred from the love that they put into it, which allows us to be invited back more and more. Now, we are beginning to get some of this consciousness onto the planet, but people are still hiding behind picking up the words and saying that God is everywhere and then calling God in. They're picking up the words, the lingo, but they're not delivering. It's like when you get you go to a restaurant and it says New York cheesecake and you order it and you get something, but it ain't New York cheesecake. They know the language. So, for instance, the healing techniques du jour that come out today, it's ceaselessly amazing. I mean, in the Northeast area, there's a technique approach book that came out about a year or so ago, and it was written by someone who had attended the Reconnection seminars, 3 or 4 times with their wife and employees, and so I'm noticing that the words that we've been teaching are in there, and I'm going, great, someone's got this consciousness and they're talking about it. But then the actions of the technique, and by virtue of it being a technique, reduces it so you can't get the same results, which is, I'm going, why is this person walking backwards then with what they're teaching? There's, on one hand, the left side of their mouth says there's no technique. The right side of the mouth says place your right hand on point A, your left hand on point B, and collapse the wavelength. Or they'll go, there's no technique. But look at this situation and recognize that you need to bring in the energy of this color for that and the energy of that color for the other. And I go, well, there's a technique. How can you say there's no technique and do a technique? And the funny thing that happens is the moment that you employ technique, you reduce from the comprehensive spectrum of healing back down to a subset of the energy subset of healing. And so, we're learning about New York cheesecake.
Right.
But we actually have to be able to access it. Everyone wants to talk DNA, and then they do these things that doesn't bring about the change in DNA, because DNA comes about from us accessing something and not feeding our egos with the state of doing. And people don't know how to teach that, so they feel that they've got to teach steps.
Mm-hmm. Get the training wheels and then let them. It's not in the the steps.
They have to take the training wheels off.
Yeah, you swim. You take the
you take the little float wingies off.
That's right.
You take them off.
Take the float wingies off.
Take the wings off and not the angel wings.
That's the angel wings. Yeah, but it's okay. And that's what's funny. It's like, I want to say, have your steps, have your little training wheel, have whatever gets you there, but then then open. Just open to, because it is you. I think we talked about this before, Eric, that this resonant field, the reconnecting field, that's beyond that goes on and on, is us. Anyway,
it is us. We're blips and texture in this field because of the way the body heals. And you know what? Let's talk about how the body heals and how this healing happens. But before we do, I don't want to forget. I want to remember to tell you this. I don't know. We had just decided to do this, so I don't know whether you know or not. Okay. But for the what's happening again is that the weekend of the 12th through 14th is when we're teaching this work in Los Angeles.
September 12th.
And following that, the 18th through the 21st is when we're having a conference. The people speaking at the conference are Daniel Brinkley, Masaru Emoto, Daniel Brinkley's wife, Catherine, who's amazing, Lee Carroll, who wrote the Indigo Children and the Cryon books, researchers, Dr. William Tiller, Konstantin Kuratov, Terry Cole Whitaker will be there, who I love, Dr. Gary Schwartz from the University of Arizona, and some people from the chiropractic world who teach practice management to teach you how to actually start up and develop and expand your practices so you can step into healing as a profession that allows you to support yourself and your family in a wonderful, prosperous way based on the integrity of touching as many people with the light and love of healing day in and day out as possible. We even have a special guest who will be showing up for music entertainment, which is Stephen Halpern. So it's going to be a wonderful time. And what I wanted to tell you was, if people register from your show, from this program, they are going to be able to get $60 off of the weekend conference, or they're going to be able to get $60 off of the weekend seminar to learn how to do the work. And there is one special day that I'm giving that I've only given 4 times before. I've given it once in the U.S., twice in Australia, and twice in Germany. And that is, I'm going to be opening up what I've sort of kept very secret and private since 1994, but there has been information delivered about this work from the source of this work. And I had it transcribed, and I'm going to share some of what some people might call channelings, and other people might call it speaking in tongues, and the people who call it speaking in tongues won't speak to the people who call it channeling, but that's a whole other story.
Just keep, mix them, move them, they'll be separated.
So we're going to do a day of what I call light and information, and so anyway, the $60 discount will apply to that day of light and information. It will apply to the weekend of learning how to do Reconnective Healing, and it will apply to the conference weekend, and so it will apply to all 3 if you do that. But anyway, I wanted to let people know that. But I was going to talk about how our body heals, but I'm suddenly looking at our time. How much time do we have?
I know. We'll have to have you back again.
Oh, well, fine. Twist my arm.
Yeah, this has been great. Let me just check the chat. Any last question of anybody? Let's see.
Because I was going to talk about light and the role that light plays in the body. Because you see, the body doesn't heal.
Do that in 2 minutes.
Watch this.
Okay.
Let me talk quickly, and we'll see.
Okay.
The body doesn't heal the way we were taught. You know, the chemical model is dead. The chemical model does not represent how the body heals any longer, and we know this. The body heals through light, and what, you know, not just the new agey concept of I'm the light, you're the light, wouldn't you like to be the light too, you know, but the fact is we know that the DNA in our cells emits a certain level of light, and it allows us, all we need to do is remember that we are that light, and once we gain that memory, our body begins to vibrate at that level of light, and here's the secret. When we vibrate at that level of light, the people in the field with us become reminded that they are that level of light also. And they begin to return to going, oh, yeah, I remember this. This is me vibrating as light. I think I'll do it again. And as they do that, as we do that, anything denser than that light falls off from that vibration. So if appropriate for that to occur in our lifespan, that simply falls away, and we vibrate healthy once again. And here's the kicker. Healing is just that simple. And anything more complicated than that is designed to sell you something.
I agree. You know, and I always go back to, Eric, healing, the word itself comes from the Old English word ohalen. All that means is balance and wholeness.
Exactly. We talk healing, but we teach treatment and therapy.
Oh.
We teach how to do this for this problem and that for that problem and this for this symptom and this for, and that's treatment and that's therapy, and we call it healing because our ego wants to treat symptoms and say, look what I did for that person, when the fact is that healing is about bringing a system into balance, and anything that falls out of that doesn't fit in that balance falls away.
I love it. And what you said, are just being open. I think you're bringing people or giving them what they need, perhaps suggesting and giving what they need to just be open, to just show up, to just be that what they are, that which they are. Eric, you've been so inspiring. I've been receiving input from the guests that they're very inspired. Those of you that want to connect more with Eric, you can go to the Reconnection.com, and there's info on his workshops and seminars, and then, of course, there's the one here in the LA area, September 12th through the 14th, and then we talked to one in the Seattle area, but so much more. If you go to his website, you will be able to get more info.
And let them know to mention your show, and they'll get their $60
Oh, yeah,
discount.
Oh, good, yes.
But to do that, you're going to have to call or contact the office because it's not on the website.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks so much, Eric. As always, love connecting with you.
I enjoyed it, and let's do it again.
We'll do it again. All right, everyone.
Okay.
Lots of love and light, and until
You
next
too.
time, keep awake.